The war between humans and the Zalari Empire had lasted for decades. Entire planets were scarred from battles, fleets destroyed, and countless lives lost. Despite all that, humans still held their ground. The Zalari were taller, luminous-skinned, aliens with eyes like molten silver, and their technology was far ahead of humans. Yet humans had something the Zalari did not: courage that burned brighter than any star, and a stubbornness that refused to bend. Captain Leon Hart had fought in many battles. He had seen friends die and worlds crumble. Every scar on his body told a story, but none compared to the one he carried in his heart. The memory of a colony lost to Zalari forces, a failure that haunted him every night. Yet he could not give up. Humans never gave up. That stubbornness had earned him respect among his own people and curiosity among the Zalari. When the peace summit was announced aboard the massive neutral station orbiting the planet Kalis, Leon was selected to represent humanity. He was proud but nervous. The Zalari summit chamber was unlike anything humans had seen. Towers of translucent crystal rose like sharp fingers, and soft, glowing light shifted across every surface. Floating platforms carried delegates from one part of the chamber to another. The air hummed with quiet energy, powered by technology humans could barely understand. The moment Leon stepped inside, all eyes turned toward him. Humans were few in number, standing in their simple uniforms against the shimmering alien court. Every Zalari noble watched him with unreadable expressions. At the far end, on a throne that seemed carved from liquid silver, sat Queen Elindra. Her presence alone silenced the room. She was taller than most Zalari, her hair falling like liquid, moonlight down her back, her eyes shimmering with a fire that made even seasoned diplomats nervous. Leon felt every eye on him as he approached. His steps were steady, but his heart pounded. He had faced enemies on the battlefield, but the Queen's gaze carried something different. Something that seemed to pierce through armor, through logic, straight into his thoughts. "Captain Hart," said the human ambassador nervously, "I present to you Queen Elindra of the Zalari Empire." Elindra rose slowly, the movement graceful and deliberate. She did not bow. She did not gesture as most rulers did. She simply looked at him. And then, the words came. Her voice echoed in the chamber like a melody and a command at once. "I want him." The chamber froze. Humans blinked. Zalari gasped. Nobles whispered urgently among themselves. Leon froze in place, unsure whether he had misheard or if she truly meant it. His instincts screamed caution. The words could mean a claim of ownership, a challenge, or an insult. But none of those possibilities mattered as much as the strange pull he felt from her gaze. The human ambassador stepped forward, voice tight. "Your Majesty, we do not understand. He is here as a representative of humanity, not as whatever you imply." Elindra's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Do not be hasty," she said, her voice calm but filled with authority. "I have observed him. I have watched him in battle. His courage is unlike any I have seen. He does not flee. He does not falter. That is why I want him here, with me." Leon's mind raced. He remembered the last battle he had led, the moments when he had refused to retreat even as his ship was hit and his team was destroyed. Somehow, across space, the Queen had noticed. Somehow she had seen the choice he had made when all others ran. Whispers filled the chamber. Humans were alarmed, unsure how to respond. Zalari nobles were shocked that their queen would show such interest in a human. None had dared to approach her in this way before. Elindra, however, ignored all of them. She stepped down from her throne and moved closer to Leon. Her presence was magnetic, yet not threatening. "You survived when others would have fallen," she said softly. "You have a heart that beats differently. I want to understand it." Leon swallowed hard. He had faced death countless times, but her words stirred something inside him that he had never felt before. Was it fear? Curiosity? Or something else entirely? He could not tell. Before he could respond, Elindra waved her hand, and the chamber doors opened automatically. She gestured for him to follow her. Leon glanced at the human ambassador, who looked uncertain, Then followed the Queen. The doors closed behind them, and the council could only watch as the human walked beside the alien Queen, the tension in the room almost tangible. They arrived at a private chamber aboard the Queen's starship, unlike anything Leon had ever seen. The walls glowed softly, the floor reflected the stars outside, and a strange, serene energy filled the air. Elindra gestured for him to sit. "You may call this a reward or a test," she said, "but it is an opportunity. Learn from me, and perhaps I will learn from you." Leon nodded cautiously. "I will do my best, Your Majesty." Days passed aboard the starship. Leon was treated with honor. Zalari guards bowed to him. Alien servants offered him food he did not recognize, and the Queen herself spent time with him. She asked about Earth, about humanity, and about battles he had fought. In return, Leon learned about the Zalari Empire, their struggles, their fears, and their loneliness. Despite their power and advanced technology, they carried burdens similar to his own. Elindra often watched him in silence, and when she spoke, her words were thoughtful and rare. "Humans endure loss in a way my people cannot understand," she said one evening, as they observed the stars from a viewing dome. "You lose much, yet you continue to fight, to hope." "Why?" Leon thought carefully before answering. "Because we have to," he said finally. "Because hope is the only thing that keeps us moving forward. Without it, we fall apart." The Queen's expression softened, though her eyes still carried that fire that made him feel both wary and drawn to her. "Perhaps that is why I cannot stop looking at you," she admitted quietly. But the starship was not free from danger. Word spread among the Queen's court that she favored a human. Some nobles whispered in secret, calling it madness, arguing that the Queen had violated the traditions of her empire. A few even plotted to test the human, to see whether he was truly worthy of her attention or whether he would break under pressure. Leon noticed the tension in the air. He trained daily, not just to maintain his physical strength, but to be prepared for anything. Even as the Queen spent time with him, he could sense the eyes of her advisors on him, weighing his every move. Yet despite the uncertainty, Leon could not deny the strange bond forming between them. One night, Elindra dismissed her guards and came to him alone in the observation chamber. The stars stretched endlessly outside the dome. The silence was comforting, yet heavy with unspoken words. She stood beside him, her gaze fixed on the distant suns. "Do you ever fear, human?" she asked softly. "All the time," Leon admitted, "but fear doesn't stop me. I face it anyway." The Queen turned toward him, her silver eyes reflecting the starlight. "You are different from my warriors. You fight not for power or glory, but for something deeper. I want to understand that depth." Leon met her gaze. "I don't know if you can," he said honestly. "It's something we carry inside us, something we can't explain easily." Elindra smiled faintly. "Then I will try. That is why I brought you here." Even as he spoke, Leon could feel the weight of the Empire pressing around them. Some nobles would never accept a human at her side. Some might even try to harm him. But Elindra's decision was clear. She wanted him near, and she was willing to face any challenge to keep him there. Days turned into weeks. Leon continued to train and learn about Zalari culture, while Elindra continued her observations, asking questions that probed his mind and heart. Slowly, a mutual respect grew between them. Leon admired her wisdom, her strength, and the burden she bore as a ruler. Elindra admired his courage, his resilience, and the humanity he carried with him like a torch. One evening, as they watched the stars from the observation dome, Leon felt a shift in the air. The Queen's hand brushed against his almost accidentally, yet it sent a strange warmth through him. She looked at him, and for a moment, neither spoke. It was a quiet understanding, a bond forming that neither war nor politics could easily break. Yet danger was never far away. Leon knew that some in the Queen's court were plotting, that some might see him as a threat to their power or a symbol of weakness, and he knew that despite the honor and fascination, he was still a human in a galaxy that did not fully accept humans. Still, he did not regret being there, Because in Alindra's presence he felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. Hope that even across stars and species connection was possible. Hope that courage and honor could create a bridge between worlds. And as the twin suns of distant stars cast their light across the ship, Leon realized that his journey had only just begun. The war outside might rage on, the court might scheme, but here, with the queen who had chosen him, he had a chance to show what humans were truly capable of, not just in battle but in heart. The tension aboard the Queen's starship grew each day. While Leon Hart trained and learned about the Zalari, he could feel the eyes of the court following his every move. Some nobles whispered behind closed doors, plotting ways to test him, to see if he truly deserved the Queen's favor or to remove him entirely. Yet the Queen, Elindra, paid no attention to them. Her focus remained on him, watching, questioning, and slowly letting the walls she had built around her centuries-old heart soften. Leon had learned much about the Zalari. Their technology, though advanced, was only part of their power. Their strength came from discipline, patience, and control of emotions. Elindra was the embodiment of all these qualities. She ruled with wisdom, but beneath that calm exterior, Leon sensed a longing for something she could not claim from her own people. Humans, Leon realized, fought not just with strength but with emotion, and that was something the Queen had never experienced before. One evening, as the starship drifted silently through a field of glowing asteroids, Elindra approached him. She moved with the quiet grace of a predator, but her eyes carried warmth he had begun to trust. She gestured toward the observation dome. "Come," she said softly. "I want to show you something." Leon followed, curious. The dome revealed a breathtaking view of a nebula, swirling in colors he could never name. Light from distant stars reflected off the edges of the floating rocks, creating a scene that was both beautiful and dangerous. Elindra stood close, just beyond his personal space, yet he felt no fear. Instead, he felt a connection, a quiet understanding that transcended words. "You humans find beauty in chaos," she said. "Even in destruction you see hope. I do not understand this, but I want to." Leon smiled faintly. "Sometimes beauty is all that keeps us moving forward. Without it, we have nothing to fight for." She looked at him longer than usual. "Perhaps that is why I chose you," she whispered. "Not for your skill, not for your strength, but for your heart." The words were simple, yet they struck him with more force than any weapon he had faced. For the first time, Leon realized that Elindra's fascination was not a whim or a political game. She truly wanted to understand him and through him the human way of life, but the peace aboard the ship was fragile. A faction of the Queen's Council had grown restless. They saw her attachment to a human as a threat to the Empire, a weakness that could be exploited by enemies. Late at night, whispers filled the corridors. Leon overheard phrases like madness and dangerous distraction. Some even spoke of eliminating the human entirely, fearing that the Queen's heart could endanger their power. Leon remained vigilant. He trained with the best Zalari warriors, learning their martial techniques, their energy manipulation, and their ways of reading opponents before a fight even began. Though human in form, he adapted quickly, surprising the Zalari instructors with his resilience and intuition. Elindra watched these sessions closely, sometimes joining in, correcting a stance or demonstrating a subtle maneuver. Each time, Leon felt his respect for her grow, as he realized that even rulers could be warriors, and even warriors could be vulnerable. One day, as they sparred in the training chamber, a sudden alarm rang through the starship. Leon's instincts kicked in immediately. He grabbed Elindra's arm as the doors burst open. Masked figures disguised as royal guards stormed the chamber with energy blades drawn. Leon pushed the Queen behind him, taking the first strike himself. Sparks flew as his armor deflected the weapon, but he felt the searing heat along his shoulder. He did not falter. The attackers advanced, but he moved with precision, using both human ingenuity and Zalari techniques to outmaneuver them. Elindra for the first time joined the fray. Her powers, magnificent and terrifying, flowed effortlessly as she disarmed and incapacitated attackers with calm precision. Still, the number of attackers was too great. Leon realized that the only way to keep the Queen safe was to place himself directly between her and the enemy. A blade struck him squarely in the chest, sending him sprawling to the floor. Pain shot through his body, but he did not cry out. He only hoped she would be safe. Alindra's scream rang out, shattering the chaos. She unleashed a surge of energy so powerful that the remaining attackers were thrown across the chamber. The doors sealed automatically, and the emergency systems immobilized the intruders. As the dust settled, she rushed to Leon's side, lifting him with a strength he had never seen. "You fought for me," she said, her voice trembling, "when your own life was in danger." "Why?" Leon coughed, trying to regain his strength. "Because I couldn't let anyone hurt you," he whispered. "Not while I could stop them." The Queen's eyes glistened with an emotion she rarely showed: vulnerability. She carried him to the medbay herself, ignoring protocols, ignoring the stunned medics. She stayed by his side as he was treated, refusing to leave, her hand never leaving his. For the first time, Leon saw the alien queen not as a ruler, but as a being capable of love, grief, and fierce protection. As he recovered, Alindra continued to visit him. Every day she spoke of the attack, the Council's whispers, and the dangers that still lurked within the Empire. Yet her gaze, her touch, and her words conveyed something deeper than politics. She was letting him see her heart. And in return, Leon began to understand the weight she carried. Centuries of leadership, battles won and lost, and the loneliness of being the most powerful being in her world. One evening, after he had regained his strength, she brought him to the balcony of her starship, where the stars stretched endlessly before them. She stood silently, watching the nebula glow in the distance, then spoke softly. "You humans endure so much," she said, "yet you carry hope as if it were a shield. That is why I chose you, not for your courage in battle, though it is great, but because your heart does not bend to fear." Leon turned to her, searching for words. "I never expected this," he admitted. "I fought battles I thought mattered. I never thought a queen from another species would notice, let alone trust me with her life." Alindra smiled faintly. "Trust is earned, Captain Hart, and you have earned mine in ways few ever could." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of the human ambassador. He had come with news that the Zalari Council was planning a formal challenge, questioning Alindra's judgment and demanding that Leon be removed from her presence. The tension that had been simmering now boiled to the surface. The Queen did not flinch. She stood tall, her silver eyes blazing. In front of the entire delegation, she addressed the council. "This human has shown more honor than any of you," she declared. "He risked his life not for power, not for conquest, but for loyalty, for what is right. If that is weakness, then I choose weakness." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Many Zalari could not believe the words they were hearing. Yet the Queen's conviction was unshakable. Even those who had plotted against the human could do nothing but bow, for her power was absolute. Leon felt a strange mixture of awe and humility. He had never imagined that a human could earn such respect, let alone stand at the side of a queen who could command entire star systems. Yet here he was, not through conquest or domination, but through courage, loyalty, and heart. Days passed, and the bond between Leon and Alindra deepened. They trained together, talked for hours about their worlds, and shared moments of quiet reflection beneath the stars. Leon began to understand the challenges of ruling an empire, and Alindra began to understand the resilience and passion of humanity. One night, as they observed twin suns setting on a distant planet, Alindra turned to him. "You once said humans endure because of hope," she whispered. "Then let this be our hope, that two hearts from different worlds can build a bridge between our species." Leon took her hand, feeling the warmth and strength of her grasp. "Then we will," he said firmly, "together." And so, in the midst of a galaxy torn by war and fear, the human warrior and the alien queen became symbols of a new kind of courage. Not the courage of weapons or fleets, but the courage to trust, to protect, and to connect across worlds. For Leon, the journey had begun as a duty, a mission to represent humanity. But it had become something far greater, a chance to change the course of two civilizations, to show that even in the darkest reaches of space, hope and honor could create something lasting. And for Alindra, the centuries of rule had taught her power, strategy, and wisdom. But it was a human's courage, loyalty, and heart that taught her something she had never known, that even the strongest ruler could choose love, and in that choice find a strength greater than any army or weapon. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a canvas of possibility, and as the queen and her human warrior stood side by side, the galaxy held its breath. witnessing the beginning of a bond that could unite worlds, not through fear but through trust, courage, and the unbreakable human heart.